We are at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, which is just outside of a town called Bowmanville in Ontario, just down the road. Oshawa, big GM plant down there. The Chevrolet Grand Prix this weekend will be packed full of those supporting the bow tie. And that's good, because we have plenty of General Motors product to cheer for those people who are here this weekend. 2.5 miles, give or take, 3.9 kilometres in the metric system, which is what's used here. Action area number 1 has been turn 5 this weekend already. Not so much going on at what is the usually busy turn 8. Also a bit just off the top of the brow down at turns 2 and 3. Hello everybody. In the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre, it's John Hindhaugh and Ryan Marine. And as our driver database informed pit lane reporter, we've got Arjuna Kankapardi. Let's head to Arjuna straight away and get the news from the pit lane. 2 cars with a loss of fastest lap, and they are, well, 2 cars in this session coming up which have lost their fastest lap due to causing red flags earlier on, Arjuna.
Both of them in free practice 1. So they've had free practice 2, those 2 teams, to dial themselves back in. The first of the red flags was for Lorenzo Patrese in the Conquest Racing Ferrari, the 34. A little bit loose and a wiggle down towards turn 5. He didn't quite catch it in time, but minimal damage, if anything. A little bit of bodywork rub, but outside of that, it was the confidence dented. And he said the team did a great job to put him back in the right mindset, and I would not count that team out. Even though they're going to lose their fastest lap time, Lorenzo Patrese's got it in him to set 2 quick lap times. The other car, John, that's going to see their fastest lap time removed from the session is the Wright Motorsport Porsche. The 120 had an off in free practice 1 with Callum Ilott behind the wheel. It sounded like some technical issues played its part as well, but I think Callum did a decent job to kind of enter the wall at the right angle, as weird a phrase as that might sound. The team had some work to do, but it was mostly bodywork repair. They replaced the suspension more out of worry than anything else, and a great time lapse was put on social media showing just how quick the team was able to get the work done.
Track temperature 49 Celsius, which is 122 Fahrenheit in the air, 27 Celsius. That's toasty-ish. 81 Fahrenheit, virtually no wind to talk about, Ryan Marine. And as we come in to qualifying, who should we keep an eye on? Those 2 cars that Arjuna's mentioned obviously are going to have to do something pretty special to be right at the sharp end. 13 cars will go out. There shouldn't be that much problem to find a gap. Who has had the speed so far this week?
Interestingly enough, one of those cars that we've been talking about has the fastest GTD time across the 2 practice sessions. Lorenzo Patrese set that time, let's see, that was in practice 2 earlier today at a 1:15.5 in that Ferrari, but again, he's going to have to do it twice. The good news is, as we heard from him in that practice session earlier today, it's a relatively short lap, so there should be chances to do it. I've also got my eyes on the Lexus number 12. Wayne Taylor Racing's Huracan has been pretty quick here this weekend as well, and you can't count out the Corvettes on a track that has some sentimental value to GM, with the Oshawa plant just down the road in GM Canada as well, headquartered not too far from this circuit too.
Arjuna, just hearing about a penalty for the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, and given this is a 15-minute session, this is a pretty big penalty.
Thanks to the IMSA pit lane team that informed me of this, and I've just seen it on the live timing as well. Failing to perform their torque sensor offset test is going to rob them of a third of this session. They will be sat for 5 minutes, John, before they'll get out on track and begin setting some lap times.
And that's, Ryan Marine, is our championship leader, Dudu Barrichello, choosing to prioritise this series above other things. He's missed out on a couple of WEC races, including his race, the Green Flag Fives, his home race this weekend, right this weekend, at in Brazil. How difficult is it going to be? He's not going to have the same sort of time to prepare the Michelin tyres as everyone else, but we know he's got the pace.
He does. He's been reasonably quick here. In fact, has the 4th fastest GTD time coming into this qualifying session. That's through 3 hours of practice to this point. But this does put him on the back foot. It also leaves him vulnerable if this session were to be interrupted in the second half by a red flag. All the competition might already have times on the board, but he would not. So that's certainly a challenge there. And remember, in this championship battle, there are qualifying points paid in the WeatherTech Championship. 35 points for the pole, 32 for second, 30 for third. Really, it's a factor of 10 fewer than the points paid out for that same position in the race that's paid out for qualifying. So although he has a healthy 157-point lead in the championship, we know every point can be so valuable in the season-long bid for the title, and losing out potentially on some qualifying points here, that could be something to remember down the road.
We have seen titles in IMSA competition coming down to a position lost or gained at the end of the final race at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and in fact this champion, the Michelin Pilot Challenge Championship, was decided in that way when one of the teams decided to pull out and give the championship to someone else. So that has happened down through the years. We'll see the times come down after a few laps. Don't expect to see somebody go and rip one off on the first final lap. What sort of lap times should we be looking for, Ryan?
Well, again, the best time so far this weekend was that lap from Lorenzo Patrese, a 1:15.5. The qualifying track record for the GTD class is a 1:15 flat. I'm not sure that the track conditions now are as favorable as they were in that earlier practice session, but on the other hand, we've got sticker tires, we've got low fuel tanks, and also fewer cars on the track than we had in that earlier session. So somewhere in the low 15s seems to be a realistic target here for GTD.
I'm going to keep calling this out. The track temperature is 49 Celsius. That's 120 Fahrenheit. Enough to put your hand on it and feel the heat. Enough to feel the heat through the soles of your training shoes. And the Michelin tyres will have had to have been pressured perfectly to that. Hello to Rob Diaz, one of our production staff, checking in this weekend at IMSA Radio, by the way, if you want to get in touch with us. Lorenzo Patrese then in the Corsa, blue, white and black Ferrari. The 296 looking great in those colours, and he's already trending quicker than his own time. So that was the first flying lap. Great coverage from our NASCAR production team, and of course we've been talking about our camera operators. We must not forget our brilliant audio team up at NASCAR Productions as well, because what would the pictures be without any sound? And obviously on radio that would be a bit of an issue. Thank you very much indeed to all the team up there, replays, techs, production. You would not believe what it takes to pull these broadcasts together so that you can either stand trackside and listen. Even tomorrow you'll be able to listen on Sirius XM 206, listening around the world on RS2. It's a pretty simple thing to put a bit of audio and a bit of video up on the web nowadays, isn't it? Yeah, no. No. To coin a minion phrase. Right, we've had the 5 minutes now, so stand by for Didi Barrichello and his opportunity to come out of the pit lane. I expect he is rolling already We are down to a 16.2 for Lorenzo Patrese, and that is his second flying lap, Ryan, and he's trending even a little bit quicker, although he hasn't nailed the middle sector this time.
No, gave up a little bit of time there. He's still up a 10.5 though on his previous best, and I love what they're doing from Conquest with this car, knowing he's going to lose his fastest lap. There's no waiting around. They're just going, go, go, go. Put in fast laps as early as possible to cover in case of a potential yellow, knowing again that that fast lap goes by the wayside. Down into the 15s now at a 15.7.
So we need to keep remembering what his second best lap is, because that's the one he'll be credited with. If he can put another high 15 in, that's going to put him in pretty good stead. Nobody else in the 15s at the moment. Dudu Barrichello is rolling. Casper Stevenson's come back out the pits as well for the Dragon Speed Corvette, the multicoloured car. Dudu making sure to stay out of the way. That was very considerate driving. Hello to Arnage Rob, who's in the warmth of Sheffield in the United Kingdom. What a great circuit, CTMP. He says, yes, you're absolutely right. Air temperature in Sheffield is probably a tad warmer than it is at CTMP. 26 in the air in CTMP. Most of the Midlands, South Wales and south of England have been up over 30 Celsius again today. Hottest day of the weekend tomorrow, up to 34, 35 degrees is what I'm hearing from our listeners in the UK and in Europe. Considerably hotter than that as well, into the mid to high 30s before the weather breaks. Just getting a bit of high pressure off the north of the UK that's turning the wind round to a northeasterly, that's bringing the temps down on the eastern coasts. Down to half distance, Patrese then with a 15.777. His second best lap is a 15.875. Still good enough, Ryan, for pole position right now.
It would be, but we're about to start to see some laps really coming up in anger from the rest of the field that has been more circumspect about working their cars up into the window now, and waiting around a bit more than Patrese. In fact, Russell Ward just set the new fastest time here at a 15.746, so that's your new provisional pole sitter in the Mercedes from Windward.
And that is faster than the fastest lap that Patrese's put in. At the moment, he would be down in third position, and there goes Ben Pedersen for Vasser Sullivan, a 15.3. My goodness, might we see a 14 here this afternoon? That would be something. Danny Formal with a 16 flat. 3 drivers in the 15s at the moment. Pedersen looking to go a little quicker for Vasser Sullivan in the Sailmaster number 12 car with the green numbers, as all the cars do in this category. Hello to Richard Kelly. What's the odds of a Heart of Racing Aston Martin North and South America pole position double? Be remarkable. Dave Dudu can pull this one off. I wouldn't put it past him. He's got a 16.1 on his first lap. He's working up to it slowly. Pedersen, Ward, Patrick Gallagher now with a 15.7. So 4 drivers under the 16s. And Dudu Barrichello, just for Richard Kelly, obviously stunned by the negativity coming in on at IMSA Radio Richard. I'm only kidding. How about a 15.1? on what was only, Ryan, his second flying lap? This lad's not hanging about.
That's fantastic stuff for him to get right on it. Fantastic lap from him. Tracy just came around and did his new best lap at a 15.4. That's only good enough for third quickest, and he'll lose that one, but now would fall back on that 1:15.777. And let's see, where would that put him in the order at the moment? That would put him down in 7th, so hopefully he still has a little bit more time left in that car with 5 minutes to go.
Danny Formal putting something decent together for the number 45. Sits in 6th at the moment. A 15.7 was his last lap, which was his best lap. Here's Dudu coming through again, but he's got traffic ahead of him, and it is Ben Pedersen. He's eased off. He's gonna, well, I don't think he's gonna get this one as well. 4 Mile is going to improve, and I reckon he'll move. He has moved up 1 place, so he moves from the outside of row 3 to the inside of row 3 in GTD. Just a reminder, 13 cars in GTD will always start at the first start, and any subsequent restarts, they will all start behind the GTD Pros, which will all start behind the prototypes. It is always in that order, regardless of what times are put in this session. So that's how the grid will line up. All of the P2s will line up ahead of all of the GTD Pros, and then the GTDs line up in their earned time order. So within the classes, obviously the fastest lap time puts you at the front. But if, for example, Dudu Barrichello's time of a 1:15.1 is better than any of the GTD Pros, and that could and might happen, it doesn't matter. He will still start behind them all. 3 minutes to go, Ryan. I know you're watching the splits, Miss, which is very interesting. Mason Filippi for DXDT putting a decent lap together. He's put the fastest first sector in.
And for a little while, he was trending good enough for provisional pole. Let's see what he can do here in the 3rd sector, coming to the line. 5th fastest, no, 2nd fastest, excuse me. So jumps up with a 15.3 to the outside of the front row. I thought that was interesting. We heard from Robert Wickens earlier in the practice, and he wouldn't tell us who was going to qualify the car. Comparing the two, Filippi has been the quicker by a fairly large margin through the practice sessions, and maybe that's because they already knew that he was going to do the qualifying and had him focus on that, but for whatever the reason, he's had the pace edge, so it does make sense to have him qualify the car, and he's rewarded the team with a really strong lap right there.
In the battle for points and the ultimate prize in the Bob Aitken Award for the bronze drivers, Brendan Areeb is ahead of Sheena Monk, who's ahead of Ore Fadani. Now, they don't get points for their qualifying unless they would qualify on pole position, but those starting positions will be important for them in their quest to get the invitation to Le Mans 24 Hours 2027. 1 minute and 45 as Patrese goes through again. That was a 16.2, so a prep lap if you like. What have the Michelin's got left in them? Russell Ward has just done his best lap in the number 57 AMG GT3, 1:15.399, good enough for 57. It's 4th place then for that car. Barrichello's pitted, he'll be no better than his 15.1. I think that might be enough. Ben Pedersen for Vassar Sullivan, 15.3. And between them at the moment, Mason Filippi is still out there. Filippi not on a quick lap at the moment. Is he doing a prep lap? There's just on a minute to go. Russell Ward goes through, doesn't improve. 15.399 is his best, 15.638. Hello to Kevin de Vries. Just north of 30 Celsius with high humidity in the part in Ontario at the end of June, start of July, but the current temps with the slight breeze are far more enjoyable. You can only imagine what it's been like in the UK, where early to mid 30 Celsius aren't the norm. Neither is air conditioning in private housing. I've really rather enjoyed it. It was even warmer in France over the last few weeks. I was in Le Mans for Classic a couple of weekends ago. Up to 40 Celsius the weekend after the Le Mans 24 Hours. Quite frankly, that event would not have happened in that sort of heat. Time has run out. Ore Fadani sees it the checkered flag first for 13 Motorsport, running in the very patriotic colours of the Maple Leaf, very red and white Corvette. Also coming in to the pit lane is the Corvette of Dragon Speed, Casper Stevenson. Only Mason Filippi still running, and he's not going to improve. So are you happy to call this here, Ryan? That we've got Didi Barrichello on pole position. He only needed 10 out of the 15 minutes.
Yeah, amazing. And actually, he needed even fewer than that, because he came out, set that lap, and came into the pits pretty quickly, looking after those tires and thinking about potentially having a run with them later on in the weekend during the race. So that was really impressive stuff from Barrichello to come out and be a quarter of a second clear of the next closest car. That sends a message for sure. I think Russell Ward, I don't know what happened, but he had one push lap there right towards the end that was trending to be pretty darn close to Barrichello. Through 2 sectors, he was fractionally ahead, but he lost a half a second in the final sector, and then the final lap was his in-lap, so it didn't push any further. But I do wonder if there might have been a bit more pace in that Mercedes, but something went awry there in the final sector. Nevertheless, still an outside of the second row start, it looks like, for the Windward car.
So Didi Barrichello did an outlap, a prep lap, a fast lap, and an in-lap.
Yep.
Pretty much. That's incredible. That is a car and a driver that is working exceptionally well together. The Brazilian-Canadian driver duo on a weekend where the world's 2 biggest sports car championship are in, oh, hang on, Brazil and Canada. So maybe that is a little bit of an omen. Harter Racing with cars at both of the venues in a variety of classes. Richard Kelly backpedaling massively. He said it would be a remarkable day if Didi can pull it off earlier on. He says remarkable was meant in the positive sense. Never doubted him. Never in doubt, says Richard Kelly. Yeah, there you go. That's a good save, Richard. Got onto the lock stops there. As it stands, and again subject to post-qualifying scrutineering checks, it will be Aston Martin Harter Racing on the front row from the Chevy Corvette of DXDT Racing with low 15s, the order of the day. Ben Pedersen of Asa Sullivan will start on the inside of row number 3 in the number 12 Lexus RCF GT. Last time we'll see that car up here? Possibly. I'm never sure with Lexus anymore. On the outside of row 2, Windward Racing's Mercedes, Russell Ward's time good enough for 4th. Then it's Danny Formal for Wayne Taylor Racing with the Lamborghini Huracan, and Patrick Gallagher for Turner Motorsport, the BMW M3. That's 45 and 96. Lorenzo Patrese, that 1:15.777 is the lap that he's credited with. So he didn't do anything better than the 15.4. Where would the 15.4 have put him? That would have put him in 5th position if he'd held on to the 15.4, but he couldn't because he had stopped a session. So Barrichello increases, or came in this weekend with 1,540 points, 157 points ahead of Ben Pedersen and Aaron Telitz, with the Turner BMW crew, the Gallagher and Foley crew, 160 points back, so just 3 points away from second. Who needs 15-minute qualifying sessions? An out, a prep, a fast, and in. Easy when you do Barrichello, Arjuna.
He lost 5 minutes, but it didn't seem to cost him too much. Dudu Barrichello, we were wondering if the loss of the time might impact the tyre preparations. What did he do in that qualifying session that made it all work?
Well, I was a bit scared, to be honest, that the tire wouldn't get ready, so I just, as soon as I hit the pit limiter button, I just pushed as fast as I could, and I don't know, it seemed to be pretty good. And car was very good, you know, the track is very enjoyable as well. High commitment track, which I really like, and yeah, I'm happy to do it in Canada here. It's my first time at the track, and you know, it's Roman's home track as well, so super proud to do it.
You're missing your home race in Brazil in the World Endurance Championship. I know you gave some tips to some of those drivers. How much has Roman been able to help you as you've acclimatized to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park?
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, we've been talking about it the whole year because we knew we were going to share the car, and we're roommates. So, you know, we just enjoy ourselves out there, and yeah, he's helped me a lot. So, yeah, happy days.
35 championship points. You'll lead the field to green tomorrow. 2 hours and 40 minutes of racing. What are we expecting strategy-wise?
I don't know really. I haven't won a race, so I can't wait to win one. I'll be trying my best tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure Roman will as well, so we'll see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Interesting that it was Dudu who was chosen to qualify, Ryan, given that his teammate knows this track so well. But my goodness, the confidence has been repaid.
No kidding. You can't question the thought process based on that result there. I guess the counterpoint would be he's been driving this car all year, whereas Roman's been in the Valkyrie for much of the season. So there's probably something to the familiarity of the platform and the confidence that a professional racing driver can get up to speed at a track relatively quickly, especially when you've got Roman helping him out. But whichever way they went, they are blessed with an embarrassment of riches, right? I mean, those are two awesome options to have in your back pocket, whichever way you elected to go, and Barrichello repaying the team's faith in spades.
Noticed I was helping Johnny Palmer call FP3 from Brazil earlier on, and in one of the breaks here, and Dudu's dad, he's down in Brazil. No doubt saying, my lad needs a hypercar drive, I would think. He's adapted to sports car racing very, very well indeed. And if he was to take this championship title this year, Ryan, that would be a real feather in his cap.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, as effectively a rookie in the championship, did do the one race last year in the WeatherTech Championship, but a full season rookie, the way he's been able to step in and run at the front all season long speaks volumes to his talent. Remarkable that he's got such a huge championship lead. It was 157 points before this session. He just extended it by 5 additional points based on the qualifying results here, and yet hasn't won a race yet. But he's been the picture of consistency. Yeah. 3 times on the podium and no finish worse than 10th through the first 5 races, and you know, that's the key to success in a season-long championship, is be consistent and don't have too many bad days. And even when they have had a bad day, it's not been all that bad, all things considered. 10th place is not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, ultimately, a motor racing championship is like a league in a stick and ball sport, isn't it? It's a season-long competition, as you rightly say, and getting consistency across the season and picking up points throughout. You know, the big wins are great, whether it's soccer or baseball, the local rivalries, NFL or whatever, but getting some consistency across the season and racking up those points is super important. And yes, he wants to win. We have had people win championships win class championships in this championship, including Corvette, for example, without their drivers winning a single race in the season. It can happen.
It sure can. I don't think anybody particularly enjoys winning a championship that way. They'd much rather win races en route to the title. But, you know, at the end of the day, you get the big trophy and the big check at the end of the season. So they'll take the title any way they can get it. One thing that adds to the degree of difficulty, though, for Dudu, not only is he a rookie, he's going to these tracks for the first time in a lot of instances, but he's done this with the revolving door of co-drivers. Tom Gamble typically is his co-driver, but he's had Spencer Pumpelly with him earlier in the season. Now he's got Roman DeAngelis alongside, so it's not like he's had a stable teammate that he's been able to lean on all season long. That really makes this all the more impressive, what he's been able to do here this season.
That is actually a very good point. And does that not speak then to his mental resilience and fortitude,
Yes.
as well as his driving skill?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what more can you say? The fact that he's been able to just get down to business, learn these tracks, learn his co-drivers, adapt to whatever the situation throws his way. He's been just about unflappable throughout the course of the season, and it's almost reminiscent of Lauren Heinrich, right? When he came in as a rookie and won a championship, having all that success right out of the gate. I'm not sure this has been quite to that level, but it's still really impressive what young Dudu Barrichello's been able to accomplish.
Top of the pile in the 13 GTD runners, then Dudu Barrichello, Hartner Racing Team, by getting on for a quarter, almost exactly a quarter of a second, then 0.009 from the Chevy Corvette of DXDT to Lexus in third, then 0.017 from third to fourth. I'm saying that because that tells you, does it not, just how big a gap 0.243 of a second is. It sounds like nothing, but from Dudu to second place, and then from second place to pretty much fifth place is the same gap. 2.5 tenths, actually 2.5, not 2.25. So congratulations to Hartner Racing. It's been a good day for them, is all I'm going to say. Now we have 10 GTD Pro cars. The Chevy Corvettes have the same performance potential of Mason Filippi. The Aston Martin Vantage of Scott Andrews and Car Blanche has the same performance potential of Dudu Barrichello. Are we going to see a 114 here with the pro drivers in the pro cars? The cars are the same. The cars have the same performance potential, as I said. It is the drivers that makes the difference. I think they're going to have to work hard to get the Dudu's to pace, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think a 14's out of the realm of possibility. The best GTD Pro time so far this weekend is a 15 flat. That was Jack Hawksworth in the Lexus in practice 2 earlier today. But again, much more favorable conditions during that session than we have right now, with the high track temperatures that you've chronicled here for this qualifying session. So I'm really curious to see how close these GTD Pro cars can get to Barrichello, or if they can go faster. If they can, how many will go faster? Certainly the Lexus looks like it could be a potent weapon here. The Mustang's been fast. The Corvette has been pretty quick as well. I think likely you're looking at those 3 makes as your favorites for the pole position, but there are a few others that have been hovering in that general vicinity as well.
I've just seen a penalty applied from that last session to Lorenzo Patrese for failing to adhere to the controlled power parameters, and he's lost, I think, 4 laps on that, and he's been credited with a 1:16.2, which pushed that car down to 8th position. That's not the time we thought. We thought he had a 15.777, and that was certainly what he was credited with to start with. So he's dropped a couple of positions there, I reckon. So that's a second, effectively a second penalty for Conquest Racing. Yes, invalidate laps. Now, is that 4 and 7 or 4.27? I'm not sure, 4-7. But ultimately, it's cost him some time. Fred Vervish is the quickest up to pace for the Ford Racing Ford Mustang. And then Neil Verhagen and Harry King, they're straight into the high 15. So that's round about halfway up the GT field. Max Esterson, a 1:15.5 on his first push lap. Been a quiet run for RLL Team McLaren so far in the 720 GT3 Evo. Neither of their drivers have been here before. Had a quick swap of texts with Max's dad earlier on. They've been building their confidence gently through the week. Let's see what Max can do here. He exploded onto the scene at the end of last IMSA season in the Porsche 963, the John Church JDC Miller Motorsport car, when he put in an extraordinary 3 stints at the start of Motul Petit Le Mans and announced his arrival in some style on the endurance scene. RLL Team McLaren, RLL themselves, moving to a different manufacturer this year, recognising the opportunity to get hold of Max as Neil Verhagen goes through 1:15 flat to the top of the pile and has beaten Dudu Barrichello on what will be his, I suppose, first flying lap. He did 2 prep laps in that car. That perhaps a luxury that Dudu didn't have. Max Esterson goes through at 0.029 of a deficit, 1:15.1. This is throwing overhand early. Ryan, this is a cracking qualifying session, and we're in the early stages of it. Still 9 minutes to go.
That is massive from Esterson, because that car had done no better than a 16 flat in the practice sessions up to this point. So to find basically 9/10 of a second, that's remarkable.
And now Alexander Sims goes to the top in the Corvette Racing, and that was after, well, hang on, I'll just stop talking for a moment. Nicky Katzberg down to the top. Nicky putting his hands up for that contact with Chris Mace at the end. The untidiness is all I'm saying at the end of the Sail at 6 hours of the Glen. Well, in the Chevrolet Grand Prix here at CTMP, Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller, first and second. That's going to please a huge section of the audience on the grounds here.
Well, it's not a surprise to see Pratt Miller doing well here. They have 13 wins in IMSA competition at this track. That's the most of any team in IMSA history. It's the most of any team entered here. I think the next closest is Riley with 3, to give you some idea of how good Pratt Miller has been here over the years. So the Corvette, by the way, has the track record for GTD Pro in qualifying. We're a ways away from that at the moment. It's well into the 14s, but that lap from Katzberg flirting with the 14s, and I think we might see a 14 in just a moment. There it is.
There's a 14.684 out there. If you add up the best laps, it would be Neil Verhagen's first sector, Russell Ward's second sector, and Alexander Sims' third sector. And Nicky Katzberg goes into the 14s, a 14.8. Let's just remind ourselves that RLL lost 45 minutes of a 90-minute session chasing what they thought was a mechanical issue, and in FP1 they lost all of that time. It was a software issue, so presumably they just turned everything off and did a Control-Alt-Delete and turned it back on again. Sorry, I'm being awfully facetious there, ladies and gentlemen at RLL. That is very, very impressive for Esterson. Still, he's 0.3 away from pole, but 0.3 away from a front row start, because there's a big gap, Ryan, between Nicky Katzberg and the rest of the field, much as Dudu Barrichello did in the GT category. He's pulled out basically a quarter of a second between himself and everyone else.
Right. Very similar to what we saw earlier in GTD qualifying. I've got my eye, though, on the car that's currently last. Jack Hawksworth down in 10th, has not done a representative lap up to this point, and it seems to me that they might just be waiting to pick up the pace. As I say that, I notice he's up on Katzberg's time through Sector 1 by 0.02 of a second. Now going slightly to the other direction in Sector 2. 5 100ths to the opposite side, short of Katzberg's time, but Hawksworth in that Lexus very much challenging for the pole position here with 5 minutes left on the clock. Here he comes to the stripe, and Hawksworth, the second car to go into the 14s, just misses out by 66 thousandths of a second, still with the second fastest time in the session and plenty of time left.
And splits the Corvettes. That's a key move for them, and Hawksworth stays on it. No faster sectors for him, and he's not at his best through sector number 1. This time around had to negotiate one of the Corvettes down to turn 4, straightens the car up. My goodness, he takes a lot of speed into the first part of Moss Corner. All of the red and white curves being used on the exit. Clear track ahead, still sunshine. We ticked on to 50 Celsius on track temperature for just a few minutes. A little while ago, air temperature 27 Celsius. That's 81 in the air, 122 when it's up to 50 on the track. Punishing for the Michelin tyres, and yet they continue to deliver performance at the very highest level. 4 minutes to go. Hawksworth, another quickest lap for him, a 14.8. So that's his quickest lap, and he trims the lead of Nicky Katzberg to 1/3 of a 1/10 of a second. 0.036 between first and second, and then 1/4 of a second back to the rest of the field. Outstanding from the leading pair.
And how about this? Just went purple in Sector 1. Hawksworth, who surpassed Ben Keating for the most poles in modern IMSA history. That goes back to the merger between Grand Am and ALMS in 2014. That pole in Watkins Glen was his 17th in the modern IMSA era, and that's the most all-time. Hawksworth trying to add to that with another pole run here, and he's got a pretty good lap going through Sector 1.
Yeah, good stuff going. And he's putting this together. He's trending just shy of pole position by 1/1000th of a second at the moment. Can he turn that around? No, he can't. A 14.884. My goodness, for a moment he was right on track, but there's 2.5 minutes left, Ryan, and he's showing no signs of slowing down.
No, still pushing, still fighting. Neil Verhagen, though, what a lap he's put together through 2 sectors, John. How about this? Purple in the first 2 sectors, 4/10 to the good, with just 1/3 of a lap to go.
Can he keep it going as he comes to the line? He can! Takes pole position by 1/2 a second. It's not even close. With the kind of gaps that we're seeing at the front of the field, he has just blown that out of the water on his 9th lap on the Michelin tyres. What was I just saying? 120 Fahrenheit on the track, 50 Celsius near enough, and somehow the Michelins and Neil Verhagen and the BMW and Paul Miller Racing a 14.382. Mic drop moment for the iHeart Racing, Neil Verhagen driven Paul Miller Racing BMW.
Just missed the track record by 9/1000ths of a second as well. What a lap.
Still 1.5 minutes to go. Not calling it yet. Telling you that now. Alexander Sims goes back into second position. Jack Hawksworth, by the way, has pitted. He'll be no better than 4th with that 1:14.8. He must have thought he'd been doing great. Now all of a sudden he's on the outside of row 2 because both Corvettes have usurped him. A 14.813 from Sims. Nicky Katzberg a 14.829. But there's still 1/2 a second between Neil Verhagen and the rest of the field. 9/10 of a second across the whole of the GTD Pro field, and 1/2 of that, oh no, Max Estersen's found time. Esterson on his 9th lap, a 14.5, is within 0.2 of a second of that outstanding Verhagen lap. Esterson, the young American charger, who is stamping his authority on this qualifying session behind Verhagen. Verhagen has got a little more experience, I think it's fair to say, picked up by BMW as a junior driver and put through the ringer, and it's turned out a very good driver indeed. But Esterson, as the checkered flag flies, in 2nd place at the moment. It's McLaren on the outside of the front row. Remarkable stuff. 4 of the top 5 now have put their best laps in on their 9th or 10th lap. What are Michelin making these tyres from? Incredible.
Well, I think everybody has come in at one point or another to the pit, so I'm going to assume that they've thrown perhaps a second set of tires at one point or another during this session at these cars. But your point still stands. I mean, even as it runs right here, we're pretty deep into this run, and Alexander Sims, at least through sector 1, was challenging Verhagen. Gave up some time there in the middle sector, so I'm not sure he's got the pace to displace Esterson on the outside of the front row as it goes. Katzberg also is out of it right here, and just about everybody has seen the checkered flag. Sims does not improve. He'll do no better than 3rd. If Esterson holds on, that is, by the way, a 1.5 seconds faster than that car has gone at any point this weekend. What a remarkable result that would be for our RLL and McLaren.
Yeah, Katzberg's in, and Sims didn't improve. Katzberg came in the pit lane, late decision there as he was touring. It's going to be BMW on pole position for Paul Miller Racing. The story surely has to be the new partnership between RLL and McLaren, and pulling in the young American charger Max Esterson into GT3 racing. His dad will be absolutely on fire. The iHeartRadio car comes down. I said it was a bit of a mic drop moment. It certainly is. Phenomenal. Robin Esterson is the father of Max. Robin, your lad's done absolutely brilliantly here. It's not very often, Ryan Marine, that I get lost for words, but seeing that time and that qualifying by that young American driver in 2nd place. Look at the names around him. Look at the names around him. Verhagen, Sims, Katzberg, Scott Andrews, Hawksworth, Harry King, Ben Barker, Fred Vervish. The 2 Fords down in 9th and 10th, something not right there with the Mustangs. Maybe they'll come good in the race tomorrow. That's what they'll be hoping. But a new team with a new manufacturer in 2nd. Incredible. However, does not take away from the fact that Neil Verhagen has done what you might expect him to do. Another young driver, but has come through the BMW Junior program, and at nearly 0.2 of a second between 1st and 2nd. That's impressive. And we've still got LMP2 to come. I love this format of qualifying.
Yeah, it's good fun. Really cool to see. Great stories on that front row in GTD Pro. 2 young American drivers. I think very much the future of sports car racing from a U.S. perspective. Esterson very much just starting his career. Verhagen's been around it for a little longer, as you talked about. He's been part of the BMW family for quite a few years now, but only in the last handful has he taken his career back stateside and gotten to race in North America on a regular basis once again. Big result for him. Arjuna letting us know in the chat that this is his 2nd pole. Both have come here at CTMP, interestingly enough. So what a great lap there by Neil to take the pole by nearly 0.2, and then that story from Esterson, as you've chronicled, really remarkable that he was able to hold off some of the top GT drivers on the planet to lock out that front row start.
Well, 0.2 of a second in the context of 0.002, 0.036. Again, as we talked about with Dudu Barrichello. By the way, Barrichello's time was good enough for 7th amongst the pros, so not quite in the top half, but pretty good. That one was very special for Neil Verhagen and for Paul Miller Racing. Arjuna has this report as a driver database informed pit lane report.
A second pole in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. It comes here at Motorsport once again. Seems to be something about you in this track. Commitment required in qualifying, and you seem to be able to put it all out there.
Yeah, for sure. As you said, both poles have now came from Motorsport, which is yeah, kind of funny now. So I guess this is kind of my track. But yeah, as you said, the commitment level here is so high. On my first run, I'd actually gone off in turn 3, and it was sketchy. I was bouncing all over the dirt on the outside, just pushing a little bit too much, but was able to get it reined in, and the Paul Miller Racing boys delivered me an amazing race car today, and just can't thank those guys enough.
We saw your sector times. We were quite amazed by them. I heard what you said over the radio. You couldn't have done that lap again if you tried.
Yeah, no, I tried a second time. I tried to see if I can improve it again, but there was no chance. That was everything we had. So, yeah, super happy, as I said. We made a great step from free practice 2 to qualifying. Practice 1 was good. I feel like we kind of missed the ball a little bit in practice 2, but then the guys did an amazing job to get us right back in the money again.
And in a great spot now to continue fighting for the championship. What are we expecting tomorrow leading this field to green?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've only led the field once in my IMSA career. This will be the second time, so I guess I kind of have a little bit of experience around here. So hopefully make it through turn 1 clean and kind of replicate what we did last year in the first stint.
Congrats. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
So a 14.382, and there was a 14.352 out there because Alexander Sims had the fastest 3rd sector for Corvette, which will start subject to post-qualifying technical inspection. The Corvettes will start 3 and 4 in positions 3 and 4. Neil Verhagen with the best first and second sectors. Lovely, lovely lad. We've had him in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre before he was a full-time driver. I think it was it last year, Ryan, at Motul Petit Le Mans, or maybe it was the year before, but I remember him joining us in the booth and having a very good chat with us.
I'll defer to you, but it doesn't surprise me. He's super well-spoken, really professional young driver, and you know, it's fitting, I think, that he's paired up with Connor De Filippi, who not so long ago was very much cut out of the same mold, right? Kind of American up-and-coming talent, goes over to Europe and carves out a nice career, then has come back stateside and has accomplished big things. Now has the chance to mentor the next generation, and I have to say, when this pairing was announced, I kind of had a smile. I think this couldn't have been more perfect selection for BMW and Paul Miller to put these two together.
Yeah, just smart lad. BMW have done very well in bringing him along. He was, of course, in 2015, one of Jeremy Shaw's Team USA alumni. He won it that year and been part of BMW Junior team since 2020. Did that British Formula Ford Championship. I remember him coming to the house for dinner. I'm trying to remember who was the other driver that year that came with Neil in 2016. It was Kyle Kirkwood, I think, possibly. Or maybe Oliver Askew. Maybe it was all 3 of them, actually, that year. But they came for dinner at Hindhoff Towers. 3, if it was all 3 of them, it was 3 very well-sorted young gentlemen. Neil, well, if they've come through Team USA, that's you know that it's not just about the driving, it's the whole package that Jeremy Shaw has always looked for. What a servant to American motorsport Jeremy has been down through the years, raising the money for that and bringing young drivers with prospects perhaps for advancement across to either the UK or for a while went down to Australia and New Zealand. Brilliant stuff. Extraordinary that Shaw isn't in an American Racing Hall of Fame. Really should be, just for what he's done for Team USA, never mind all of his journalism and reporting and broadcasting. Right, we have the final set of cars, 9 thereof. They're all Oricas, and they are all setting off right now. Fair play to AO Racing, who brought their merch unit north of the border, which is not the work of a moment, and there's paperwork involved in that. No criticism implied or meant to any border controls, by the way, but it was, I'm sure, something of a logistical challenge, shall we say, to get the merch unit north of the border. And I have seen so much social media from AO Racing fans of Roxy and Spike that have been appreciative of that. Right, same again, same question. Who's fast? Who's likely to be there? And what times are we looking for, Ryan, as the 15 minutes starts to count down?
Well, remember my rule, the bronze-graded drivers have to qualify in LMP2. So looking at just the bronze drivers through 2 practice sessions, 3 stand out above the others. 2 should come as no surprise. Jeremy Clark and PJ Hyatt, they've become kind of the qualifying masters of LMP2 over the last year and a half. But sandwiched in between the 2 of them, and very snugly, it should be said, because the top 3 were separated by about 9/10 of a second across the 2 practice sessions. But Misha Goikberg, on what is effectively home soil for him, he's lived in Canada for a long time. He's been really fast here this weekend as well. Was only 3/100ths of a second off of Jeremy Clark for the quickest bronze time in the 2 practices. And that car has been the overall quickest car here this weekend, courtesy of his co-driver for the weekend, Ricky Taylor, who's filling in for Harry Tinknell here. So I would say those are the 3 to keep your eyes on, but you can't count out the likes of George Kurtz or Dan Goldberg as well, who have been pretty stout at qualifying over the years too.
I love this session. Even when we do have GTP, it's always the P2s that catch my eye. They might not be the outright quickest when GTPs are here, but they are not sluggish at all. George Kurtz goes immediately to the top with an 11.4. What sort of times have they been putting in already this week, Ryan?
108.602 from Jeremy Clark is the best from a bronze-graded driver. The quickest time full stop for LMP2 is a 107.8, which again was set by Ricky Taylor. So we'll see. I will note that the temperature has come down as we've gotten deeper into the evening. It's now 77 Fahrenheit in the air. It's dipped down to 117 Fahrenheit on track, so still quite warm, but getting more favorable, at least, as we go through these qualifying sessions.
The words, and I quote, "it's dipped down to 117 Fahrenheit," which is 47 Celsius, by the way, from my colleague, Ryan Marine. The Michelin tyre techs are going, "Oh yeah, it's dipped down." Yeah, absolutely. But yes, I know what you mean. It's trending down over. No more cloud cover, it's just the time of day. Just coming up to 5 minutes before 5 Eastern. And another quick lap from George Kurtz, but PJ Hyatt goes through. We're down to the 109s already. Now, typically, these drivers, not pro drivers, switching on tyres is a skill that even some pro drivers don't have, which is why they don't like to qualify. Keep an eye on Jeremy Clark as well. He's gone through to second actually with a 109. 109.1 from PJ at the front of the field. Switching a set of tyres on quickly is a skill that some people never ever get. This is a lovely session, and the reason I like it so much is as the VP Racing fuel burns down, the performance potential of the Michelin tyres is still there. And the fuel burns down quicker than the performance potential goes away on the tyres. So basically, it's very often last man across the line gets pulled position. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We're going to see a 108 from PJ this time around in Spike the Dragon. Comes through the final corner now, rides up on the curb, perfectly just on the curb and onto the tarmac beyond, and that is a 108. Oh, it's not just a 108, 108.3 from PJ. That's an awesome lap.
And Jeremy Clark not far behind, only 48 thousandths of a second slower at a 108.424 right now. These are the two that have been really the masters of qualifying here for a little while now in IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship LMP2. Every once in a while somebody else can pop up and challenge them, but they are always there in the conversation.
It's just brilliant. George Kirk's in there as well. He's just a little further back, maybe just bringing his tyres in slightly more carefully, burning off the fuel. Misha Goikberg, his fastest first sector. He's a second away from pole, but can he pressure the front row and Jeremy Clark? Clark going quicker again on this lap as George Kurtz improves his time but not his position, at 108.9, and PJ goes faster again. A 108.358. He's just trimming tiny bits off as Jeremy Clark goes a 108.2. A 10th quicker. Ooh. Are we going to see a 107 by a bronze driver in an LMP2 car? That would be absolutely incredible.
That would be remarkable. We're not that far away, and as you said, typically these cars, these drivers only get faster as the session goes on. I would point out the track temperature has gone down another 2 degrees further since we talked about it last, so conditions are trending the right way. The fuel load is trending the right way. The driver's confidence is going the right way. We'll see. They only need to find about a quarter of a second to drop into the 107s.
Temperature has plummeted now on the track to 115 Fahrenheit, Ryan. Track limits for the number 11 car of Toby Lutke. He's got a warning for that, lost his lap. That was turn 2. Easy to do there. A 108.1 now for PJ Hyatt. He's just teasing us. 38 1,000ths of a second ahead of Jeremy Clark, who's pitted. 7 minutes to go. He can get a new set of Michelins and go again. Is that what they're about to do here? Clark into the pit lane as Misha Goikberg displaces him from the front row. 0.009 of a second between first and second, then 0.029. The top three are separated by a third of a tenth of a second. 0.038 across the top three. Remarkable.
And they're not done. Hyatt just did a new overall best first sector, only by 2 100ths of a second, but still got a little bit quicker as well in sector 2. So Hyatt isn't willing to rest on that 108.186. He knows there are a few other fast drivers that could yet knock him off his perch.
Are we going to see a 108 flat here? I think we are. It is a 108. No, a 108.2. He was 9 1,000ths slower than the last time he went around. 108.202. That would still put him in third position, by the way. So he's got the first and third best laps at the moment. PJ is staying out. Misha Goikberg and Jeremy Clark have come in. Dan Goldberg has come in. Phil Thayer has come in. And already, in fact, Jeremy Clark is out. So Jeremy Clark was the first of the fast runners, Ryan, to come in for a new set of Michelins. You're allowed to do that now. In the old days, that wasn't allowed. I actually like this. and quite a lot of the teams will use it just to scrub in or road a set of new Michelins for the race, particularly if temperatures are going to be high. But these guys have done it halfway through. This is reset now with 5 minutes to go. Now, did they put a new set of tyres on, or did they just adjust the tyre pressures? That we don't know. We don't get the tyre data here, as we do in the WEC, although the RFIDs are in there. Jeremy Clark into Europol, building back with almost exactly 5 minutes to go. Brandon has tweeted at IMSA Radio. He said when GTPs were here, the qualifying time was a 1:05.6. Really? 1:05.9 is the DPI lap record from Blogbus. Yeah, maybe, yes, maybe. But this is a 1:08.1 from a down-tuned LMP2 car, let's remember. See, I think, I've got to say it, Ryan, I think that when there's no hypercars, so in ELMS, when there's no hypercars, the P2s get a bit more power. I think when the guys are here for this race, you should be allowed to turn them up a little bit, because there's no GTPs. Give them back the 60 or 70 horsepower. Give them back the 600 that they used to have, and let them have at it. That would just be incredible. Right, let's have a look at the times. PJ building up to another one here. His lap last time around was 2/10 away from what he's done. It was 1:08.3. That's still hauling the mail. George Kurtz doing a better first sector this time around. He's sitting those 6/10 off. He'll not be happy with that. Trained so hard, won the LMP2 Pro-Am again. As a man from, he lives in Arizona now, doesn't he, George? So the heat, the air temperature, the heat inside the cockpit holds no fears for him. In fact, he's probably got an extra pullover on in the car. 1:08.805 for George last time around. That was his best lap. 3 minutes to go, Ryan. Who's looking good?
I think PJ Hyatt's looking good, if I'm honest with you. We really haven't seen anyone be able to put a full lap together. Kurtz just went personal best in Sector 1 again, but he's got to come from so far back. I haven't seen any sector times from Goikberg or Clark lately. And how about this? PJ Hyatt just did a new overall best first sector on this lap. So again, he's not content, and I have a feeling he would love to see a 1:07 with his name next to it.
I think you are right, and he's pretty close to that at the moment. Needs to find just under 2/10 to do that in Spike the Dragon, the number 99 purple car. Jeremy Clark at the moment in the green and yellow in the Europol car. They were a winner in class at Le Mans as well for, what's that, 4 times in 5 years. Clark goes to the top, a 1:08.0. So PJ, unless he can do something lower than a 1:08.019 and stay in the 1:08, he might have to do a 1:07 to be on pole position. He's gone through. Goichberg goes through into second. Goichberg with a 1:08 flat as well. Oh my goodness, this is so tight. Half a tenth between first and second, a tenth between second and third, a tenth and a half between the top 3, and we are tantalizingly close to a 1:07. And there's time. There is time, Ryan, for another lap for all of those drivers.
And Hyatt is on a flyer. He is up a quarter of a second on his previous best. That, if he can keep that up, would see him dip down into the 1:07s. We're seeing George Kurtz doing, well, at least through Sector 1, he was on a good lap. Sector 2 kind of went away from him slightly. So Hyatt, I think, is the one to watch here with 52 seconds on the clock.
Hyatt has Well, he's dropped away in the middle sector, made a mistake, but he will get one more. Comes to the line with just on 30 seconds or so to go. This has got to be the one for PJ. As they come through. Toby Ludke, Chris Cumming, John Ferrano, all doing their best laps last time around in 7th, 8th and 9th. Looking across, Jeremy Clark, his personal best first sector. Daniel Goldberg's personal best first sector. What happened to PJ in that middle sector? He dropped a lot of time. PJ trying again. Goldberg goes through. His best time, a 108.2. And there's the 107. There's the 107. And it's Jeremy Clark from Inter-Europol, a 107.904. Goldberg with his best time in 4th. Hyatt with no improvement in 3rd. Misha Goldberg is not going to improve. But we got somebody. Jeremy Clark has got down to a 67-second lap. All right, 67.9, but I don't care. It's 67 seconds for a bronze driver into Europol. The Le Mans specialists are bringing their undoubted talent as a team to IMSA and showing how they can operate in the Orica-dominated class of LMP2. They must be knocking on the door of some kind of manufacturer, LMH or GTP operation and project. They are in a class where the talent pool is deep in teams and engineers as well as drivers, Ryan. Inter-Europol continue to operate at the highest level, with Brian Hurt at Autosport behind them, with EO Racing behind them, with Dan Goldberg and United and George Kurtz all sitting behind them. And it's nearly 0.2 of a second in a sector that sometimes is decided by hundredths and thousandths. And Jeremy Clark does a 67-second lap as a bronze driver in an LMP2 car. All right, in a second set of tyres, but after 12 laps out there and a phenomenal 15-minute session.
Well, not only was that an outstanding lap, that is a new LMP2 track record, actually, beating Matt McMurray's time from 2019 that actually was set in a race at a 108.1. We had seen a couple of laps in practice below that. I wasn't sure we'd get there because those were set by pros. This is a remarkable achievement for a non-professional driver who takes this as seriously as any pro would. Let's make sure that's perfectly clear here. That is not to disparage Jeremy in any sense of it. In fact, I think it's all the more remarkable that he can be this quick and not have this be his vocation. But what a lap for him to go sub 108, set the track record in the process.
Again, I am lost for words. Jeremy Clark looks like he's had to work for it, and you know what? I have no problem with that. That was a pretty intense 15 minutes of driving. These cars are physical and they require driving. They need to be pushed, and he is down there waiting for Arjuna to talk to the live global audience. Phew. What do you make of that, Ryan?
Well, you mentioned it at the start of the LMP2 show. It's the best qualifying session of the weekend, even when we have GTP. The fact that it's these drivers that are slowly building up to speed, not even slowly, they're just building up to speed throughout the session. You throw in the fact you can throw a set of tires at it halfway through, so they're in their rhythm. Now they get the fresh rubber and low tanks. That has to be as fun for a bronze driver as anything you can do in motorsports, to have those cars completely tuned for one lap performance and just turn you loose amongst your peers, and bragging rights today go Jeremy Clark's way.
James O'Donnell saying, I love the energy you see as the cars go around CTMP. It's visible, fabulous circuit. Credit, by the way, our production team at NASCAR Productions who do the camera plots so we can see those cars. The tills away shots here are absolutely quality. Let's go down to our driver database informed pit lane reporter, Arjuna Kankapati, and to quote an oft-used saying, actually, I can't do this. You're going to have to lead into this, Ryan. You have to do that famous saying from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is...
It's a new track record.
How does that feel, Jeremy Clark? A new track record here in the LMP2 class, and now 3 pole positions in 4 races in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic year so far. Track record's pretty sweet. It was a fast lap.
How important were those sticker tires to go out there and pick the sector times up there? Because you really started to push a lot harder, it seemed, in that second run.
Yeah, I think that, the first one you got to manage traffic a little bit, try and build a gap, and then the second one you have no choice but just go straight out and flat out the whole time. So I think, just had to throw it down, and luckily I was able to put it all together.
If last year you were drinking from a fire hose, what's 2026 been like? We've talked so much about how you've stepped up to this level of competition, but what does that mean behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm mentally there. Last year, again, I'm the new guy on the block just trying to play catch up. And so, trying to, sometimes push beyond where I was ready to be. And this year, I'm where I need to be. And so it's a lot more comfortable every weekend.
One last question before I let you celebrate. You got a great teammate, you got a great team. How important has the support from Inter-Europol competition been to your continued development?
I mean, it's fantastic. The team, Tom, I mean, everybody's been a great help to kind of get me up to speed. They give me a car that, can, take pole a couple times this year already, and I hope that continues.
Congratulations. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. It had to be the man from Indianapolis who said that. Ryan, thank you very much for following along in the steps of the great Tom Carnegie at the end of that one. Jeremy Clark, 107.904. Before that, we saw Neva Hagen take pole position in GTD Pro for BMW and for Paul Miller Racing. And Dudu Barrichello, despite a 5-minute penalty, taking GTD pole in a time that would have put him on the inside of row number 4 for GTD Pro for Heart of Racing, Aston Martin Vantage. Thanks to everybody involved. Don't go too far away. We'll end off today with some phenomenal racing. It's Wheeler Mazda MX-5 Cup, and then we'll be back tomorrow early doors for the big races on Sunday. But for the moment, from the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre, I'm John Hindhaugh. Bye for now.